Good evening and welcome to the meeting for the Richmond Power and Light Board of Directors for Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Doug Goss.
Here.
Lucinda Wright.
Present.
Bill Engel.
Here.
Larry Parker.
Here.
Ann Taylor.
Here.
Gary Turner.
Here.
Jane Bumbalow.
Here.
Jerry Purcell.
Here.
And Justin Burkhart.
Here.
All are present.
Thank you. You've received the minutes from the January 21st, Tuesday, January 21st meeting. Are there any comments, questions, concerns?
Mr. Chairman, if there are
Mr.
no
Parker.
corrections, I move for the approval of the minutes as received.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the Tuesday, January 21st meeting of Richmond Power and Light. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The bills to be approved.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Parker.
Finance Committee has reviewed the bills and moved for approval in the amount of $9,356,790.30.
Second.
You sure? Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the bills for $9,356,790.30. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any unfinished business at this time? All right, no unfinished business. We will move on to a report from the general manager.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The first item on the agenda is a little bit of a repeat from the meeting we held a couple of weeks ago regarding the green power rider. This evening in your packet, and was also emailed to you previously, was Resolution 3, 2025 for your consideration to allow us to potentially adopt this green power rider. Just as a refresher, I need to turn my microphone on, thank you. Just as a refresher, this is a voluntary rate for customers who choose to purchase green power. RP&L customers can only participate in this IMPA green power rider if the member community, which would be our Richmond RP&L, has this included in their rate tariff, and we currently do not have this in our rate tariff. We do have customers requesting this rider. Valerie was just here. Could have had her speak to this, but the EDC has said that the availability of this rider is a frequent question in RFIs about this community. Really what this represents is the additional cost as IMPA uses to acquire green power and develop green energy sources. The current IMPA green power rider rate is a ½ cent per kilowatt hour. We're proposing to add a 1/10 of a cent on that for administration. This is on par with what other communities in Indiana that have this rate are charging, and I mean other communities, other IMPA communities. So right now, the total proposed green rider rate would be about 0.6 per kilowatt hour in 2025. Once again, this is a voluntary rate, not being forced on anyone. So we do have the resolution in your packet tonight. Exhibit A to that, which would be the third page of that, kind of outlines the key points to this rider under the terms and conditions. Basically, anyone interested in this, they would enter into agreement with RP&L. We have the discretion to limit the amount of folks that participate in this, which I would see no reason why we would. The customer can sign up for this at any time, as listed there as C, but D states that we would ask them to commit to do this for 1 year. This is similar to what we do with some of our large power customers that do have the option to try other rates. We ask for them to stick with it for 1 year, so we would do the same here. And under E, it just says that we can make some changes with your approvals if we ever decided to do that in the future. So we are not in a big rush to get this approved, but this is the resolution and the attachment. The next step, if you did approve the resolution, would to be to bring this back to Richmond Common Council to formally approve this and enter it into our rate tariff. So I would entertain any additional questions you have on this evening.
Tony, you spoke a little about asking to opt in for a period of 1 year. What, if any, what happens if we opt out prior to the 1 year?
It's just an administrative issue. If we're going to go to that trouble to modify your bill and all those things, we just like for people to stick with things for a year. At the end of the day, if someone just absolutely hates it, of course, we'll let them out. But
Does this, this does not affect the traditional household unless you really want to opt in?
you have to opt in. You have to reach out to us and say, I would like to have the green rate rider added to my bill. And then we would be coordinating with IMPA to let them know how much they're using so that, the big portfolio of green energy that IMPA has, they'd be keeping track of allocating that amount of green energy for these particular customers.
And then finally, you had mentioned, Valerie, the economic development. If one of us had maybe glossed over that, can you reiterate maybe the importance to the economic development piece of this?
Sure. A lot of companies, it's very important to them, especially as they consider ESG scores and other things, that they have green power. So one of the things we talk about with them when they contact us asking about their energy sources and the portfolio, we talk about the solar we have locally and how much it contributes to their energy sources, when the sun is out. Solar Park number 8 being online now out next to U-Haul on the west side. We're at 1/3 of our power on an average sunny day coming from that. But there are other companies, like there's one that's incredibly interested in this rate right now because their competition has a similar rate in another state. And their customers are very much in tune with, being environmentally friendly. So they want to have this option as well. It is also cheaper for some customers to adopt this rate than to go out and develop their own renewable energy sources, develop their own solar, things like that. This is an affordable way for them to, I guess you could say, get the same credit, but without having to build their own generation. So Valerie has contacted me on a number of occasions over the past 18 months saying, hey, we just had another person asking if we had a green rate here in Richmond. So it comes up, I'm not going to say every week, but it has come up 3 or 4 times over the last 18 months with one customer that has asked us numerous occasions over the last 3 months if we would be able to adopt this. And I explained to them that it would probably be best to get through budget season, and we try to do it first quarter of this year. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
But it's a good one.
Who else has questions for Tony on this? Anyone?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Purcell.
Tony, is this something we can move forward tonight?
If you would like to, that would be just fine, and I would come back to potentially working with AJ to have an ordinance ready for your work or the city council's consideration, maybe the first meeting in March, if you so choose to approve this tonight.
Are there any additional questions before I ask what the board's pleasure is? What is the board's pleasure to Resolution 3, 2025, the Green Power Rider?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Resolution 83. Help me.
Well,
Number 3.
Resolution 3, 2025.
Oh, 03.
Second.
Sorry.
We have a motion, and we have a second. Doug, Mr. Sorry, Doug.
I'm sorry, I heard down here.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to authorize Resolution 3, 2025, the Green Power Rider. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. We definitely appreciate that. The next action item on the agenda tonight is a request to receive bids on one new mobile power unit for the line department as previously approved in the 2025 budget. Just a couple short months ago, I showed you this slide during the capital budget presentation. This would replace Vehicle 109, which is a 1985 unit. It's got over 15,000 hours on it. It's currently out of service, and we're unable to find parts. This replacement will be equipped to do much more than that old model. The old model was basically a generator and lights. This one has better pumps, an air blower, which would be heated and cooled, a sump pump. The aero board would be LED, have a generator, air for tools, and a winch. This is what our linemen and substation crew would be using when entering manholes and vaults. We do have approximately 1,818 manholes that have infrastructure in those, and about 25 vaults that also have some of our infrastructure in those. So this piece of equipment is vital to our operations when it comes to that type of work that we do. So we're just requesting to go out to bid.
Any questions of Tony?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Goss?
how much do we have budgeted for this?
We usually don't tell that until after we open bids, but I'm happy to share that with you if you'd like.
Well, be quiet then.
There you go. That's probably a good idea.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Purcell?
this is a little bit off subject, but not really. You mentioned when they go into the sewers and confined spaces. Do you still notify the Richmond Fire Department when you make entry?
I would want to confirm that with the line department, but we do have confined space training annually, and I'm sure that's part of what we train our crews to do, but I'll confirm that for you.
Thank you.
What other questions for Tony?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Purcell?
I'd like to make a motion to move this forward.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to authorize the general manager to receive bids on the new mobile power unit for the line department. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And the final thing that I have under my remarks for this evening would be our system reliability update for the year 2024. I'll go through that quickly just to give you an update on how we did last year. So customers and site selectors can place as much or greater importance on reliability as they do rates. So we, in addition to keeping our rates low, we work very, very hard to keep our power reliable. We finished the year with a reliability rate of 99.9740. It is a tick better than 2023. I know that chart looks terrible, but we're still in that 99.9 range. And I'll explain what once again, we had one storm anomaly that put us down to this level. In 2024, if you look at this chart, or at least you can see that we really had reliability the majority of the year at 99.99 something. The outlier was in September when the remnants of Hurricane Helene came through Richmond, and we had some widespread outages that lasted quite a long time, where they were 2 to 3 days in some cases. So that's what really hurt our reliability. Without this outlier, we would be back on par with previous years of having an annual reliability in the 99.99 area. When it comes to reliability, in the reports I send you monthly, I talk about breaker operations and the causes. This is just a summary of those breaker operations. We keep track of every breaker operation. It doesn't mean it necessarily resulted in an outage, but it may be a blink. So we want to know what that is so we can make system improvements. Everything from squirrels, raccoons, birds, weather-related items, equipment failures, trees, human errors, including car crashes, and debris blown into lines. we had, in December, we actually had a Mylar balloon trip cause a breaker operation, so we keep track of all of that. Again, our outlier when it it was September when we had 36 breaker operations related to that particular storm. Animal contact, you hear us talk about this a lot. Our largest animal-related outage occurred in October 2024 when a squirrel contacted a tiebreaker inside the Williamsburg sub, which took the whole sub offline. It's pretty rare for us to have a squirrel cruising around inside the substation on that equipment. That's usually on the lines out in the neighborhoods. But this one, we did take the sub offline, which is why this outage was one of a large one. We had 3,200 customers affected by animal-related outages last year for a total of 104,627 lost minutes. This is a slight improvement over 2023, where we had 53 related outages related to animals. Human error does contribute to a lot of our outages. We had 7 vehicle accidents last year that caused outages. A couple of those are highlighted here. In May, it struck a highline pole on Straight Line Pike. So this pole is not just a distribution pole, but also had transmission on it as well. So it was a very, very large repair. Then on September 25th, you see that mess in the bottom left. We had a little hit and run on a guy wire. It took the guy wire out, and when that happened, that caused that pole to fail and create that mess that you see in that picture. Anyway, vehicles do cause problems for us every once in a while. And just so you know, we do pursue reimbursement when a vehicle takes out a pole or a light pole or anything like that. If the insurance company doesn't pay, we continue through the collection process. Weather was the leading cause of customer minute losses in 2024. 6,600 customers lost power due to weather for 1,846,000 lost customer minutes, but 1,756,000 of those minutes were related to Hurricane Helene's remnants. And then trees. As we talk about in our budget process, we have a wonderful tree crew, and we also have some tree contractors that help us maintain our circuits throughout the community. In 2024, there were 42 tree-related outages, resulting in 184,515 lost customer minutes, which that is a reduction in customer minutes from 2023. 2022 was a mild year, but so 2024 was one of our better years over the last 5 years when it came to tree-related incidents, so our tree trimming is paying off. And we have resumed some of our underground projects. What I mean by that is converting overhead service to underground. We stopped that in 2022 when we had a shortage of single-phase pad mount transformers. One of those outcomes from COVID and supply chain issues. But we have been able to resume those conversion projects, which also help reliability. Finally, we continue to install animal guards in our substations and on our distribution lines. They do offer us, opportunities for improving our reliability, but there's never a perfect fix. When you put these animal guards on, it just sometimes creates another problem because then birds go in and build nests, or mice build nests, and then they get hot, then they catch on fire. So there's always there's always a side effect. But anyway, we keep an eye on where we have our greatest amount of animal contact and try to put these guards on where we can. And we did have fewer animal-related breaker operations in 2024 as well. And a great big thank you to Dave Stevens. He's our system planning engineer. He's the one that tabulates all of this information and keeps track of it and reports it to us. We not only use it locally, but it also gets submitted to the higher-ups in the government, FERC, also to APPA, as we benchmark our reliability against other communities and things like that. So Dave does a great job, and we appreciate his efforts. But any questions about reliability?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. President.
Tony, I'd like to point out that when you put the graph up there, yes, it looks, but graphs are all relative to the increments you're measuring.
Right.
And the fact that you're measuring in 100ths is amazing, and that's amazing reliability.
Yeah, we are we have a great group of men and women that help maintain our system and keep us in that 99.99 something range. Last November, we had a month of 99.9994% reliability, which is
Wow.
pretty. We
That's
never want to
great.
brag about it because then tomorrow something's going to happen.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Parker.
Tony, are all of our crews back now from Kentucky?
Yep, they were there for 3 days, so they're back and safe. And the mayor of that community offered to us if we ever had something come up, they would be sending their crews up here to see us. So it's nice to help out when we can because we
Bless.
know someone will help us in the future.
Very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say, Tony, I really appreciate the work that you and your crew do. We had an issue at Townsend with our electricity. And the guy came out, Mr. Smith, I believe it was.
Yes, Mike Smith.
Mike Smith came out, and he said, over the phone, he kind of figured out what it was, but when he got there, he verified, and we think we have the problem fixed, and they monitored it for a couple of weeks. And then I think this is the last week that they will be monitoring it. So I commend them. I thank him so much, and I thank you and all the crew.
They
do great work.
They do the hard work, and Mike, he loves trying to solve those mysteries.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he was on it, Inspector Clouseau, he was on it, yeah.
Thank you for that, Dr. Wright. Any other questions for Tony at this time? Any other business at this time?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.